Welcome to One-on-One with Walt Lascos. In this brief podcast, you'll learn how to most effectively address senior financial exploitation. Now, here's Walt.
And welcome to One-on-One. I'm Walt Lascos. My guest today is Jason Lindstrom. Jason has been working in credit unions for more than 28 years. He started his career as a part-time teller and has worked as a loan officer, business development manager, assistant vice president of business development, chief political officer, product development manager, and chief marketing officer. And currently, Jason is the president and CEO of Evergreen Credit Union in Portland, Maine. Jason is also a credit union development educator and mentor, a graduate of Western Credit Union Management School, a Philean I3 graduate, and the past chair of the America's Credit Unions Marketing and Business Development Council. And currently, he serves on the America's Credit Unions CEO Council. Jason also holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Long Beach State and a certificate in diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace from the University of South Florida. He also serves on the Maine Credit Union League Board, where he is the current treasurer, Synergent Board, Scarborough Land Trust Board, and also the board of the Animal Refuge League of Greater Portland, Maine, where he is the board chair. Wow, Jason, certainly a life of service, and thank you so much for giving us some time to join our podcast today.
Hey, you're welcome, Walt. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk to an old friend. You and I have known each other since we were both in California. So it's been years, but we've been in touch over the years, and I know you've got a lot of good things going, as do I. So it's good to talk to you.
Likewise. That's right. It's definitely has to be way over 20 years that we've known each other, going all the way back to California. And we never thought back then that someday we would end up on the East Coast, huh?
No, yeah, it's amazing, and you're not far south of me, so it's pretty cool, though.
Exactly. Well, listen, Jason, in a recent social media post, you shared your thoughts and feelings about financial scams and fraud, saying, and I quote, "We're not angry enough about fraud, and it's costing us all. Fraud is surging, but where's the outrage? I'm angry, and you should be too," end quote. This post attracted a lot of reactions and feedback I saw. So briefly, though, for those who have not yet seen the post, please share its key message points.
Yeah, so I wrote the post, in my role as a CEO, things happen at the credit union and we hear about it from our level. I've got 120 employees, 5 branch locations. And we've just been seeing an increase in fraud all over, not just electronic type of fraud, debit card fraud, credit card fraud, but the in-person fraud, just totally taking advantage of members. And in 1 week, my team at the front line, these are tellers and financial service reps and managers of a branch, essentially thwarted about $50,000 worth of in-person fraud where people were coming in wanting to withdraw cash, and just us having that conversation with the member. And in this case, it was a couple members, totaling close to $50,000. It just resonated with me that we're not doing enough in this space. And that's why I said, well, I don't think we're angry enough. I really don't think that we're pushing the legislators hard enough on fraud issues. We have all the controls in the world to try to mitigate electronic fraud. We have card controls. So, if you go out of state and you use your card, you get a text message. But the fraud that's out there is beyond that. We've got elder folks that are getting taken advantage of, either even sometimes by family members, but a lot of times by scammers. And the one particular fraud scam that was bumped into this $50,000 was an elderly woman who came in who said that an attorney's on the phone with her, that her grandson is in jail and that she needs to help him post bail. And she was looking for $30,000 to withdraw, which was almost entirely her full savings account. And so when we started talking with her, first thing our team said was, well, have you talked to your grandson? Well, he's in jail. We can't talk to him. I'm talking to his attorney right now. Well, have you verified with any other family members that this has actually happened? And so, part of this scam is creating the fear with the elderly woman that there's an issue and that there's a problem, and they try to keep them on the phone. And so this so-called attorney was on the phone with her, and our manager asked to speak to the attorney. And when they did, they hung up. And so she then had them call, a family member and find out. And the actual grandson was there at the house and like, no, I'm not arrested and nothing's wrong. No problem at all. So it's imperative, I think, for financial institutions to have their frontline staff be versed on all these different scams. And they're popping up weekly. There's a different one. Anything from the toll road scam that's out there, that's on your phone, and these in-person things, or, hey, we've got, you have a bill here that you need to take care of, or we're going to suspend your driver's license, or we need Bitcoin, we need gift cards, and all these things. And we're seeing people come in, and the embarrassment factor that they have, sometimes members are even lying to us about the fact that they're withdrawing cash because they don't feel right about it, but they still do it. And so that's why I said we're not angry enough. I don't think we're teaching it enough in schools. We're not working with our assisted living facilities and, senior communities enough to get the word out. Now, here in Maine, we've got a number of different products, Elder Safe and some other things out there, but it's just not going far enough. And I think that's what I posted about, because in my circles, talking with other CEOs, fraud is on the mindset of everyone. And it is, in some cases, our fraud is outpacing charge-off loans or getting close to that. And I think there's going to be a major problem here and a shift. We're also seeing our insurance companies that insures the credit unions changing deductibles, raising rates on fraud because they're seeing it as well. So that's essentially the gist of my article that I wrote. It's just really trying to motivate folks to, either agree with me, pass this along. Let's see what we can do as a unit here. The credit union movement's so strong when we come together, and we're always talking about things like taxation and other things, but these root things that are happening to our members on a regular basis is pretty scary.
Jason, I could not agree with you more. I've been advocating now for some time that we are not doing enough, and particularly when it comes to older members, elderly who have shown loyalty to our credit unions for, God, how many years? It's interesting how you say, the person comes in and the person, or I should say the scam artist, is still on the telephone live with the person as they're asking to withdraw money. Of course, doing so that they could hear what is being told to them, so that then afterward they can coach that victim on how to respond when people at the credit union, ask for all these questions. And it's kudos go to your staff for recognizing that and for intervening and asking to speak to, the supposed lawyer in order to prevent that scam. And the other thing that I think is very important here, too, is the amount of empathy that's showed to the victim when they walk into a credit union. Because so many times I think folks kind of just react quickly that, you're being scammed, lady, and they do not identify first with the person, what they're going through, what they're feeling, and the fright that might be overtaking them. And that's the key that the manipulator is looking for, to make them act quickly without thinking, increase their emotions, and therefore, act in a way that will benefit the scammer. When you look at older adults today in our industry, as I said earlier, to me, they're the most loyal members, but yet they're being targeted more than ever because of the sizable savings that they have. So in your opinion, do you think credit unions are doing all they can in return for that loyalty?
I think we are. We're working hard on it, but I think the biggest thing that's happening out there is that these scams change so often. So as soon as we put like, hey, here's our brochure, it talks about the top 10 scams we're seeing, number 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 show up. And so it's hard to, stay on top of it. Our credit union, for our size, we're 580 million in assets, like I said, with 5 branches, 120 employees. We now have a dedicated fraud person who works with our members when they call, but also is out looking for the different scams that are out there. And as soon as we hear of one or we read of one, we put that out to our team to say, hey, be on the lookout. And his job as a full-time, essentially fraud investigator, fraud awareness person, I think a lot of credit unions are having to go that route and having to pay for an individual, because if we can stop these frauds, it's going to pay his salary, no problem. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's just scary, because what if one of those slips through, one of these scams slip through? And then you have smaller credit unions that can't afford to hire somebody separate to look at their fraud or train on it. Our training team is also involved. We're always creating materials. Our marketing team's involved. One of the things that we had at the teller line was a small strip flyer, because we don't want to clutter the teller line with all these different things. And it had a QR code on it. And I said, my 80-year-old father is not going to know what to do with this nice little designed QR code and click on it if he were to come into a branch and go to our fraud page. And so we need to create a bigger flyer. So now we're working on, an 8.5 by 11 that'll list the current scams that are going on. And then we're going to update that on a regular basis. We have it on the TVs now as like a flashing alert to try to catch people's attention when they come in. Because it is this fraud that's coming in. It's not electronic with a lot of these folks. Like I said, it's more of what you talked about, Walt, in that fear and that, something's happening to a grandchild, or, there's some law enforcement action that's going to happen to me if I don't pay off this fake citation or fake ticket, or provide online banking credentials or whatever it might be to the fraudster. And so I think we're doing all that we can at the front line. I think there's more education that can be done. It would be nice to see some of the networks out there, America's credit unions, the National Credit Union Administration, the state regulator. I would love to see, when they hear of things from law enforcement, those actions be emailed out to management, fraud investigators of credit unions. And then that way we could forward them to our branch managers. Our state league does a pretty good job, because as soon as we hear of a fraud, we let them know. And then, they'll send out an alert that, hey, be on the lookout for these bad checks, or be on the lookout for this person, or be on the lookout for this scam. It's happened at a couple credit unions. But I think nationwide, when these scams pop up, sometimes it may take a while to get to Maine. And other times maybe we're leading, because our population is an aging population here. And so, this state is targeted. It's been targeted numerous times with scams. And so it's just a matter of, can we get all of our agencies on board with alerting us? And I think that's where, credit unions could thrive if they can't afford to have a fraud person, and they have somebody that's in charge. And even if it's a smaller credit union where the CEO, is trying to run everything from accounting to the frontline operations and all of that, it would be nice if these alerts came out and that they could disseminate them. And I don't see a lot of that happening. And again, that's the point of my article. Let's get angry about it. Let's try to get some things done. There should be some sharing of information, from law enforcement. And that also leads to the fact that, is law enforcement doing enough to, go after people? I've told my team, like, when we see this, let's file a police report and give them all the information we can. So the police come in, they file it, and they're, well, there was no loss. You saved them, so we have nothing to really investigate. I'm like, well, it's just frustrating. And that was the basis too of my article, is the frustration coming through. And like I said, I think there's lots of CEOs that are in the same boat, that they're hearing about it from their members, they're hearing about it from their team. Maybe they've had their family members taken advantage of as well.
Well, I think you hit on it as well from the standpoint of more of a collective effort. While a lot of CEOs are dealing with it like on I don't want to say a one-to-one basis, their credit union, another CEO with his or her credit union, I haven't seen anything where there's just a workshop or a conference strictly devoted to, fraud and scam prevention within our credit union industry. I think bringing people together generates a lot of creativity and energy that can really set the stage for how we as an industry can prevent this. I've said more than once that really the front lines in fighting fraud and scams are the banks and credit unions. And banks and credit unions should be working together. This whole thing of this competition or whatever it is between banks and credit unions, no, when it comes to people being scammed and losing billions of dollars, it's in all of our best interests to work together to protect the consumer from such losses. And however that might be, through these kind of workshops, conferences specifically to address this, to hands-on resources, which again, I say that given my work in fraud prevention now for almost 10 years, that, it's education is one thing, but it's also important to give hands-on resources and tools. You mentioned what you have at your credit union, Evergreen, and what's available in Maine to credit unions, at certain apps. I know of an app called Careful that works to help identify opportunities where it seems that financial accounts are being targeted and money is being sent or taken in a way that seems to be suspicious, sends out an alert. All kind of tools like that, I think, are very, very important. In addition to, Jason, like you were saying, the identification with older adults. And being a senior citizen, let me be the first to say that we also have to identify and talk in their language or in our language. And it does become a challenge, I guess I should say, because not only, like you say, QR codes or something. An 80-year-old, my father-in-law is 82, and it's like a QR code. What the hell is that? We have to be mindful of the audience we're speaking to. But at the same time, we also have to realize there's opportunities here because a lot of younger people perhaps are watching out for their aging parents or grandparents who are susceptible to scams. And they would be quite impressed to see a credit union using technology to protect their grandparents from being scammed, protecting their savings, which eventually probably will be passed on to them. So there are opportunities to benefit here. And there's also the scary point that I always say is that this is escalating. The losses are skyrocketing every year. And it's going to get to the point where they're really going to start to challenge the safety of credit unions, the safety of the financial funds, the reserves that we have to protect against such losses. You mentioned it's impacting insurance costs already. And when are credit unions really going to wake up that we need to take collective actions on this before it's too late? Why wait until the walls start collapsing? Let's work now to save against these losses. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, for example, I'm also the chapter, you mentioned all the things that I do. I'm also the chapter president here locally, which serves about 8 credit unions, and we have a meeting coming up, and we invited the local FBI agent to come in and talk about all the different scams that they're seeing. And, one of the questions I'm going to pose to him when he comes in is, how is law enforcement going about all of these things? And like I mentioned, having a national database, something that's being sent out, you talked about having, a convention, a conference where people get together, and we could hear from speakers on, the artificial intelligence too. Like, these people with artificial intelligence stuff, they plug a lot of things into a computer, and then all of a sudden now they're generating voice and all that, and just the amount of phishing emails that come into my credit union that are looking and mimicking me with my team and asking them, "Hey, I need some gift cards." It's like, come on, I don't talk that way. I don't, my team knows that. We go through phishing tests constantly to make sure that we're not falling victim to scams to open up our computer system. And so, we need more of that education that, the bottom line, Walt, I think it's the old adage of if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But I think in times when, inflation is high and the cost of living is high, and people are living on fixed incomes and they get a response on their phone or a phone call that is mimicking their financial institution and telling them like, oh, you can invest in this and that, and you'll make this kind of money, that if they fall victim to it. And these fraudsters know it. And, with the artificial intelligence that's coming down the pipe and some of the things that it could be used for nefariously, I think we have to be prepared for that as organizations. And again, we're having national conferences, and it's all a sales process of have AI for your call center. AI can do this for you. But we're not talking about the disadvantages of AI that are out there and how the bad actors can be using it as well. And, that's a whole new ball game for a lot of us to try to figure out on that side of things. And I think it's already playing into some of it. But it really does boil down to education, building trust with our older generation members that have been with us for a while, and then the enforcement at the front line. Just saying, if somebody wants to take out $10,000 cash, asking a bunch of questions and being prepared to, sometimes get into arguments with members about it because they want their money and they think they're doing the right thing. And, some of them have been adamant and they've taken their funds and they've walked out the door. And when they leave with that cash, there's no restitution coming back later and saying, well, yeah, I sent that off, FedEx in a shoebox to somebody and, I haven't heard anything from them. And it's been 3 months now. Like, okay, well, I think you can kiss that cash goodbye. You should have listened to what we were telling you, that we've seen these kind of scams before. And, that's the harsh reality of it all, is that, people have to be educated. And that sometimes they don't want to hear about it. And, that's unfortunate, but I think that's something that we have to continue to work on and be the trusted advisor for, like you said, not only the elderly, but also young folks, so that they know what they're getting into as well.
Exactly. And, I think you hit on it. It's trust is the main thing. And also the point that those individuals that, you may get in an argument with, they may not get their money. And when they realize that they were being scammed and they could have lost $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, they're very, very grateful for the credit union for not giving them that money. And I think we need to hear from more people like that. I want to throw out a last word on my end, Jason, before I give you a chance for a last word. On my end, I want to highlight the idea that a lot of psychologists and doctors have created a term what's called a window of tolerance. And basically that refers to an individual when they are going through life and there's not a lot of stress, not a lot of anxiety. They have a wide window of tolerance, which enables them to really, live day to day in a very carefree and non-threatening way. Whereas if someone lost a dear loved one, or someone is under a lot of stress and anxiety, that window of tolerance becomes very narrow. And it's under those conditions that an individual becomes more susceptible to falling victim to a scam. Now think of it, and I'm going to make this prediction right here. as we start looking at what's going on right now and all the talk about Social Security, Social Security cuts, we look at veterans and some of the things that are on the table right now about cutting benefits for them. And by the way, veterans lose twice as much in scams than non-veterans do. So we have that. We have the stress that these veterans are going to be under and anxiety, the stress that older folks are going to be under because of all this talk about, getting rid of Social Security. That stress and anxiety is going to be ultimately high, which means their window of tolerance is going to shrink, which means I bet you we will be hearing about a big increase in scams and fraud over the next several months. So I think we need to be prepared. Jason, let me give you a final word, a chance to give your final word on this as well.
Yeah, well, first off, Walt, I want to thank you for bringing this to light and, seeing my article that I put on LinkedIn. I think it matters to have a voice and to speak up about these things, and hopefully someone else will listen. And, they can reach out to me via email. My email is jlindstrom@egcu.org. Happy to chat with folks if they have any questions about what we've done at Evergreen. Happy to share materials that we've put together. I've always viewed the credit union movement as a very collaborative movement, and the healthy competition or cooperation between credit unions, is good. And I think this can help perpetuate the education models that we need out there and what we need to be doing at the front lines to be sure that we're helping out our Americans, the people that are involved with credit unions, our members at all ages. And so, bringing these things to light and helping to get the reach out there. I think my post has had somewhere near 8,000 impressions, which that's great. If 8,000 people have had this article in their feed, that helps make a difference. And so I think that's it, Walt. I applaud you for continuing your efforts in this realm, and know that you've got supporters out there, and there are people. We are concerned as an industry of what's going on. I think I heard from somebody at America's Credit Unions that said that this is top of mind for every CEO that he talked to. When you hear those kind of things, it's not just a problem here in Maine. It's not just a problem in a big city in California or Texas or wherever. It's a problem across the country. And like you said, it's only going to get worse. And so we need to do a better job as financial institutions of really taking care of our membership. And part of that is being sure that we're helping to educate them on these issues.
Jason, again, thank you. Thank you for giving us your time today and for sharing your thoughts and convictions.
You're welcome. Anytime, Walt. Appreciate it.
And thank you all, too, for listening today. Be safe.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to follow One-on-One with Walt Laskos wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to send comments to walt@laskoscommunications.com. And to learn more about how you might support the prevention of elder financial scams, visit laskoscommunications.com.